People rarely love being pushed. They may comply, they may smile tightly, they may say interesting point in the tone people use when mentally leaving the building, but deep down, most people prefer ideas they feel they help discover. Carnegie knows this. The second half of his persuasion section is about helping people move without making them feel dragged. Welcome back to this book summary series on how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. In this part, we finish his methods for winning people to your way of thinking. Let others feel the idea is theirs, see things from their viewpoint, sympathize with their desires, appeal to nobler motives, dramatize your ideas, and throw down a challenge. The seventh principle is to let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. This is one of Carnegie's most psychologically subtle points. People support what they help create. If an idea arrives as an order, it may be resisted. If it emerges through questions, discussion, and ownership, it may be embraced. Carnegie gives examples from business and politics where leaders achieved more by suggesting than commanding. The goal is not to surrender the idea. It is to let the other person participate in shaping it. When people feel ownership, they bring energy instead of mere compliance. This principle is easy to misuse. If you pretend an idea is someone else's while secretly manipulating them, the method becomes dishonest. Carnegie's healthier version is collaborative. Ask for suggestions. Invite improvement. Leave room for the other person's contribution. Do not need all the credit. That last part matters. Many people sabotage cooperation because they need visible authorship. They want the solution, but they also want everyone to know whose genius produced it. Carnegie would quietly suggest choosing the result over the applause. Painful, yes, but sometimes adulthood is just letting a good idea work without demanding a parade. The eighth principle is to try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. This may be the moral center of the book. Carnegie repeatedly asks readers to leave their own perspective and enter the other person's world. Not to agree with everything, not to excuse everything, to understand. He argues that if you ask yourself why the other person thinks and acts as they do, you can avoid anger and gain influence. The word honestly matters. You cannot merely use empathy as a costume. You have to try to see the pressures, desires, fears, habits, and incentives that make their behavior make sense to them. This is useful in sales, leadership, parenting, friendship, and conflict. A customer may fear risk. An employee may fear embarrassment. A child may want independence. A partner may want reassurance. A critic may want respect. If you miss the inner motive, your response may be technically correct and emotionally useless. Seeing from another viewpoint does not mean losing your own. It means adding theirs to the map. With a bigger map, you can choose a better route. The ninth principle is to be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Carnegie suggests a phrase that captures the spirit. I do not blame you one bit for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you do. That sentence works because it lowers isolation. It tells the other person their feelings are understandable. When people feel understood, they often become more willing to understand in return. Sympathy is especially powerful when someone is angry or hurt. Our instinct is often to defend, correct, or minimize. Carnegie advises acknowledgement first. You can disagree later, but if you skip sympathy, the other person may not be able to hear anything else. This is not fake agreement. You can sympathize with a feeling without accepting every conclusion drawn from it. You can understand why someone is upset and still set a boundary. You can say, I see why that bothered you, without saying, therefore everything you did afterward was perfect. Carnegie's insight is that people often need emotional recognition before rational discussion becomes possible. The 10th principle is to appeal to the nobler motives. Carnegie believes people like to see themselves as decent, fair, generous, honest, and responsible. When you appeal to those better motives, you invite them to act in line with their preferred identity. This is not the same as accusing them of selfishness. In fact, it is the opposite. Instead of saying, "You're trying to cheat me," you might say, "I know you want to be fair about this." Instead of saying, "You're irresponsible," you might say, "I know you care about doing this properly." You call forward the better self. Of course, not every motive is noble all the time. People are mixed. Carnegie knows that. But he argues that appealing to the better motive often works better than attacking the worse one. If you treat someone as honorable, you give them a path to behave honorably without losing face. This principle can be powerful in leadership. People often rise to expectations when those expectations are sincere and credible. If you assume the worst loudly enough, you may help create it. If you appeal to the best, you may give it room to appear. The 11th principle is to dramatize your ideas. Carnegie understands attention. A plain statement may be true, but truth sometimes needs presentation. Newspapers, advertisers, teachers, and public speakers all dramatize because people remember what they can see and feel. Dramatizing an idea means making it vivid. Use a demonstration, a story, a contrast, an image, a concrete example. Do not merely say a problem is costly. Show the cost. Do not merely say a product saves time. Make the saved time visible. Do not merely say a habit matters. Tell the story of what happens when it is ignored. The principle is not to exaggerate. It is to embody the point. Human beings are moved by scenes more than abstractions. Carnegie's own book proves this. He does not simply list principles. He wraps them in stories of presidents, business leaders, families, criminals, actors, and students. The examples carry the lesson. If your idea matters, make it alive enough to be remembered. The 12th principle is, when nothing else works, throw down a challenge. Carnegie ends the persuasion section with competition, pride, and the desire to excel. People are often motivated by the chance to test themselves, beat a standard, prove ability, or rise to a meaningful challenge. A challenge can awaken energy that instructions do not. He gives examples from industry and leadership where people responded to being trusted with a difficult goal. The challenge works because it says, "I believe you are capable of more." It appeals to ambition and self-respect. But this principle must be used carefully. A challenge that humiliates or manipulates can backfire. A good challenge is clear, fair, and tied to pride and achievement. It does not sneer. It summons. Together, these 6 principles complete Carnegie's persuasion method. Let others own ideas. See from their viewpoint. Sympathize. Appeal to their best self. Dramatize. Challenge. The full section shows that persuasion is not a hammer. It is a set of doors. Some people open through agreement, some through being heard, some through sympathy, some through noble identity, some through vivid imagination, some through challenge. The unifying discipline is respect. Carnegie wants influence without unnecessary humiliation. He knows that people are more likely to change when they can preserve dignity, feel understood, and see a path that serves their own values. This is why the book remains useful beyond sales or networking. It is really about reducing resistance by reducing threat. Many conversations fail because we make the other person's pride guard the door. Carnegie teaches us how to knock differently. There's also a personal cost. To use these principles well, you must surrender some ego rewards. You may not get to win the argument publicly. You may not get all the credit. You may not get to deliver the devastating line you composed in the shower. A tragedy, obviously. Literature may survive, but you may get something better: cooperation, trust, movement, and a relationship that remains usable after the conversation ends. That is Carnegie's trade. Less domination, more influence. Thank you for listening. In the next part, we move to Carnegie's final section: how to be a leader and change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. Persuasion lasts longer when the other person does not feel conquered by it.